Hey, welcome back to another podcast, Devito podcast. Special guest here, Caleb. Caleb, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's a beautiful Saturday, and I couldn't think of a better way to start it off than having, smart individuals such as yourself coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, Caleb, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm a real estate agent. I do commercial and residential real estate. I have been investing for years now, pretty much since I was 17. Um, I sell options now. I run an e-commerce website, an affiliate website, and yeah, just overall I enjoy the stuff. I enjoy the space.
Nice. So, you say you're selling options. I've been seeing that a lot on the platform lately from quite a few people. Um, I've only ever played options in the past. I had the benefit of leaving, like finally, ending it in the green. But in terms of selling, I've never done that before. Would you be able to like walk us through like like maybe like a little vocal process of how you would sell an
Absolutely.
option?
Absolutely. So when people think of trading, selling options is probably what 99% of people should do, rather than like I see so many people trying to day trade or flip trade and all this stuff. But selling options is smaller premiums, and you're not going to make as much money, but they're relatively safe, and you limit how much risk you are going to have. It's very nominal if you play your cards right. So you have covered calls and you have cash secured puts. The kicker is the barrier to entry is rather high because you do have to have enough capital to buy 100 shares of the stock. So if you're selling a cash secured put, you need enough capital to buy 100 shares of whatever you're selling the option on. And if you're selling a covered call, you need to already hold 100 shares of whatever stock that is. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. I've heard of like naked secured puts and calls. And the only time I actually heard about that was a friend of mine from college. She was selling AMC and GameStop during when they were like short squeezed, and she kind of got screwed over. And the reason why I was really standoffish was because the naked part, hence the term. She said that she was making like however much in premium, but when they got short squeezed, she got margin called like 60 grand,
Yeah.
and I was like,
So
ouch.
the naked calls are a totally different animal. Covered calls, you already have the stock. So at the very worst, you're just missing out on share appreciation. So let's say you hold 100 shares at $10 per share. Let's use Riot, for example. And the absolute worst that could happen, let's say Riot goes to $100 a share. You're only going to get $10 per share for your shares, but you don't have to pay that $100. With a naked call, you have to come up with 100 shares no matter what the price is. You just have to provide those shares.
I kind of understand more about it. I'd have to do more research on this. So like I'm still a little bit confused on the covered secured puts and calls. It's like if you own the 100 shares and the share price goes from $10 to $15, do you just like lose out on that premium that you initially sold it on?
So no, you always keep your premium. Let's run through an example. Let's say you're going to sell a covered call on something that you hold that your cost basis is $10 per share, and you sell a covered call with a strike of $12. You are essentially wanting that to stay under $12. But if it goes over, you are saying, okay, if it goes over $12, I will sell my shares for $12 if it's at or above $12 at expiration, and I will keep my premium. So you get the premium when you sell the option and you always have it. And then it is only exercised if it is above your strike price. If it's below, it expires worthless and you keep your premium. If it goes above, you are obligated to sell those shares at $12 no matter what the price is. If it's more than
Oh,
$12.
I see. So you get assigned as everyone's been calling it.
Correct.
Oof. Okay. I can imagine that could be stressful at times.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if you have a call sold, this just happened to me actually. I was selling calls on SoFi, and and I have a super low cost basis. It's $6 or $7, and I was selling in the $8 or $9 strike range. And so if I just had a run up to like 10, I don't even remember, 10.50, and so I had a massive share appreciation, but I was locked in at an $8 strike. So I was missing out on essentially $200 per contract. That
Okay, I get.
definitely gets a little bit more confusing, but
Yeah, I'd have to do more research before I jumped into something because I definitely have like the opportunity to like sell calls, but I mean, I'd rather take it from people who have prior experience than just jump right into it.
definitely, it's when I first started learning about it, I was way overwhelmed. And looking back at it now, I don't really know why. Because once it clicked, it clicked. But until then, it was so overwhelming and confusing. I could not understand it to save my life.
I could imagine. I mean, but you seem like a very smart individual, so I'm sure like over time you'll just kind of like click, you'll grasp.
For sure, I have a better understanding of it now. Now I'm really starting to figure out the Greeks. So your theta, delta, and gamma is the other one I believe, and those are a totally different animal that I'm still figuring out. But hopefully next time we chat, I'll have those down pat.
Oh, for sure. But I would imagine a lot less stress in playing options.
For sure.
That's awesome. And you also mentioned that you do e-commerce. I've heard a lot about that. Never actually attempted it. Would you mind like giving more details on that or elaborating on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was actually one of my first business ventures that went well. I had multiple things I tried that didn't work. I did all of the side hustles that people tell you to try, and most of them didn't work super well. And then I landed on Amazon FBA, and that actually clicked. So that made sense for me. It did well. I did everything right, and it worked out. My version of e-commerce is only FBA. So you essentially do your product research and you find a product that the software says will sell well, and you find a manufacturer to. This is my method. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but you find a manufacturer to manufacture said product, and you have it sent to an Amazon warehouse. You build your listing, do your marketing, and you sell the item. And Amazon takes, packs, and ships the item. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't do I, as of right now, don't have any Shopify stores or anything. I did recently partner with somebody who has a lot of knowledge with Shopify and has been running Shopify stores for companies for a long time. So hopefully we're going to be launching a product this year that we'll build an entire brand around and launch an actual Shopify store for it rather than going through Amazon, because you do give up a lot of your profit to them. They take about a third of everything.
Oof, ouch. But I feel like over time though, especially with Amazon, especially if you can't beat them, join them. There's a lot of opportunity down there. Like there's someone on Twitter that I've seen. I don't remember who, but he's done fairly well in the Amazon space. But that's awesome. So you said the product gets like designed by the manufacturer. Is that something like you have to coordinate with a manufacturer? Like how would you find a manufacturer for a product like that you have in
Yes.
mind?
So you do all the designs, and then you have to find the manufacturer that is capable of manufacturing it, and that is a pretty challenging part depending on what you're making. There's a few different ways. Simple Google search can sometimes bring you to the right place. Otherwise, Alibaba is an option. You can usually connect with people there, and if you do your research, it's a pretty safe site. They actually have really great insurance options, um, and they're very good at protecting buyers, which is nice. They kind of get a bad rap, but I've been very pleased with them. And yeah, you basically just find a manufacturer and connect with them, and then you coordinate the shipping and everything, which is an intimidating part because you're sending $5,000 to $10,000 to this Chinese manufacturer that you're hoping is going to ship your product to America. But like I said, there is trade assurance through Alibaba, so you're pretty protected.
That's good to hear. Nice. So that seems to be going well. Seems like you're off to more adventures. So, I wish you nothing but, success in that.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Of
It's been
course,
fun.
yeah. I mean, especially if you're trying. I don't know how old you are right now. I'm guessing in your 20s.
22.
Oh, nice. So you're still fairly young. I'm 25, so
Yeah.
you have 3 years on me. So you're trying out a lot of new ventures, business ideas that I've never attempted. So this could be something that you could inspire more people about, especially if you're like sharing part of your journey with that. I could definitely see this, inspiring other people.
Absolutely. That's the ultimate goal. I don't really have any desire to do coaching or like to make a course and sell a course or anything like that. But if I can share what I do and somebody picks up some tidbits of useful information along the way, that's all I can hope for.
Awesome. Well, I'll be watching, along the whole entire way. Um, so how did you get into trading? I'm really, really curious about that.
So getting into trading, that was I haven't decided if that was a blessing or a curse yet, but I decided I was probably 15 or 16 years old, and I decided I wanted to work on Wall Street. That was the dream. I was like, I want to go to college, get a job on Wall Street, do the thing, and be a stockbroker. Right? I didn't know anything. I didn't really know that stockbrokers weren't really a thing anymore. They're few and far between. I didn't know about investment banking or anything like that at the time. So I just knew I wanted to go into finance. I figured I'd figure out the rest along the way. So I got to college and I did the whole thing and I found out about trading and I was like, wow, well, why would I do this for other people when I could just do it for myself? So I fell down the rabbit hole of day trading, unfortunately, because it burnt me pretty bad a few times. I did learn a lot, though. I learned a lot along the way, but I do wish I would have waited a while because that was not the best option for me. From there, I did end up getting my degree in finance, and then I moved across the country to Florida now, and I took a step back from that career path, went into real estate just because I knew I wanted to do that eventually, and I figured what better time than now to get my license and get some experience. The finance industry is not going anywhere. So along the way, I continued just building my knowledge on trading and investing. And I never really stopped. I always traded, but a lot safer and smarter as I learned more. So now here I am. I just passed my SIE exam, which is essentially the first pillar. In the direction that I'm going, there's three pillars of tests that I have to take. It's the SIE, the Series 7, and then the Series 66. What those will allow me to do is essentially anything in the advisement range. So I could be an advisor, I could be a fund manager, I could be an analyst, I could be essentially anything consumer facing in the finance industry, which hopefully by the end of this year now, I will have both of those other tests done and I will know which direction I want to go.
That's awesome. Wow. That's yeah, I've seen a couple of people I knew from school who went to like investment banking and they told me that the tests were hard but well worth it. And they said once you get those licenses, the series what was it 63 and 7.
Yeah, so a lot of people do the 63. That's for insurance, which I did have a stint of selling insurance and annuities, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I didn't know a lot, but it gave me some experience in the industry. So I have no really desire to do that. But yeah, the 63 is a common first test that a lot of people get. But yeah, I'll do the 7 and the 66.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of people have said really good things about those, how it just opens up the doorway, into opportunity.
Yeah, and those automatically become your degree, right? Like as soon as you have a Series 7 and a 66, nobody cares about your college debt, which is foolish.
Exactly. That's a great point. So, you got into trading when you were 15, 16 years old?
17 when I actually started, but I knew I
Oh,
wanted to pretty early. I just couldn't convince
nice.
my parents to sign that paperwork.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm the same way. So I'm assuming like maybe you had like influence from family, whatnot. Like I want to get into this, and I think everything's kind of like a trial run. You kind of like try to figure it out. If it works out, works out. If it doesn't, try to like maybe like regroup. Um,
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, my whole life has been a life of trial runs. I try anything and everything I can. That's why I have so many failures, and that's okay. Um, as far as getting into it, I didn't really, if I'm being completely honest, the only influence I had was The Wolf of Wall Street. I watched it at a very young age. My all of my family is blue collar workers, nobody in the finance industry. Completely out of left field for me. I just relatively good at it.
But that's the cool part, especially when you don't have like family who has like that prior background, and then like you find yourself in that background. You're kind of like I forget what the term is called, but like it's like a new beginning in a sense. You know, I've seen that a lot in especially with people that I know. They go into like similar professions that their family or friends have been in because that's kind of like the norm. It's like the wheel, but they're like, oh, you want to like sometimes break the wheel, do something that you enjoy, not so much like following in the footsteps of your parents. Unless it's like, I don't know, it depends on the situation. But that's pretty cool that you're going down a path that you're wanting to pursue. And I see a lot on Twitter that you're always wanting to like help others, wanting to like help push others to success, which is great. You're very very humble in that sense. Um, but what drew you towards real estate?
So real estate, I knew that I would always want to invest in properties sometime down the line. I did not know when. I've always been a big fan of wearing multiple hats and having hats that I can wear. So having my real estate license was just another hat that I wanted to be able to wear. And I was never sure if I would do it full time or really fall in love with it. But at the very least, I would have knowledge in the space for when I go to invest myself. So that was the gist of it. I also a few motives I picked up along the way. The real estate industry is not the best and not in the best place right now. There's a lot of realtors that probably shouldn't be realtors, and I have a lot of friends who are buying homes and buying first homes, and they don't know necessarily a lot about the process. So being able to make sure that my friends will be taken advantage of and help them along the way is also a motive for the real estate industry.
That's a great idea too, especially if you know people and they could like utilize your knowledge because you have that background. Is this like commercial or like residential?
So I started with residential, and I'm now starting to do some commercial, which I think I enjoy a lot more. I've never been a super emotional person, and I don't deal with people with emotions super well. So being in commercial and being able to just look at numbers and just show people numbers, and people are not emotionally invested in a deal, makes my life a lot easier. So being able to show them uh, a cap rate or just the numbers on the building rather than their first house that they could raise their child in is much more up my alley.
That's actually a really interesting point of looking at it. I could actually agree with that, especially for people who like myself. Sometimes it's hard for me to be a little bit more personable. I hear that a lot at work. When you're trying to sell something, you have to like find your own charisma. I don't think that's necessarily true all the time, especially since there's like certain areas of sales or selling where you don't really have to be too personable. People just look at the numbers and they kind of like leave a lot of like emotion out of it. The money in the end and the sale obviously is like what really matters, but like the rapport, the respect, all that kind of goes along with it. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to make you very happy. It's like we both know we'll be happy when like the sale closes and we're both like walking away with like a nice check in a way.
Exactly, and that's why I think that I'll do a lot better at commercial, because I can make numbers make sense to people, but I cannot always be personable.
That's awesome. So what type of like challenges have you faced in terms of like the real estate market?
So it, on a market side, it has been great. So obviously, interest rates being high has been a challenge. Thankfully, being in Central Florida, or not Central Florida, but West Central Florida and being on the coast makes my life pretty easy because everybody wants to live here. So that hasn't been a huge challenge. Houses sell like crazy here. Our biggest challenge has been inventory in my specific location. And then on the personal side, it has been my age. People, especially going into commercial, my age is the biggest qualm for people. Once they have a conversation with me, they usually get past it pretty quickly. But that's the biggest hurdle initially.
That's interesting. So, I know with commercial, it's it's a lot tougher. It's a lot more like knowledge based. I have a few friends who are like in commercial, and they've had a hard time, especially like jumping right into it. And they said probably would have like wanted to do residential first and then merge my way over. But you do seem like a very knowledgeable person when it comes to real estate. Um, what would you say would be like the most fun part about your job in real estate? Or is it like, would you consider it fun or just like satisfying?
Hmm. I think I consider it fun. I consider the commercial side of it fun, and I consider some residential deals fun, but mostly commercial. Being able to look at, because it's kind of it's kind of what I like looked up to as a kid, right? I looked up to like, for me, I love the like having a reason to dress nice, going to show a commercial property. You're showing a $4 million property. You're not going to wear shorts and a sweatshirt. So I enjoy that part. I enjoy actually being in a field doing business and making people money, because I always kind of wanted to do that growing up, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet. When you're dealing with residential, you're giving people a place to live, but you're not necessarily always making money. Working with investors is nice, but it's still just a single family house rather than selling somebody, a warehouse or a top golf. We have a top golf for sale in our town right now.
It's a great idea. I like that, the way you explain that. Yeah, it's like you basically like have like a higher sense of purpose when you get dressed. I noticed that a lot. I noticed I would never probably get dressed, in shorts and t-shirt if I was like doing a listing. I'd get dressed as well as I could, kind of like how you envision like in the movies. They're always dressed well. They're sharp. They speak. They speak fluently. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's really great to hear. Um, so you've obviously faced, a couple of hurdles, in the real estate, especially with the higher interest rates. But luckily, you're in an area that a lot of people want to move in. So it seems like a lot of people are like moving in and out. I wouldn't say like constantly, but at like a decent pace, if that makes sense.
It feels like a revolving door. The demand for St. Petersburg is off the charts. We do not have enough inventory to satisfy the demand, which is a decent problem to have if you're in my field. But as a home buyer, I'm also looking to buy a home. It's challenging.
Yeah, I see that a lot online where everyone's like, oh, like save up for a home, only put this percentage down, blah blah blah. Like I plan on putting like more than like 50 or 60% down, but that's just like my mentality because like in California here, like my area's been like increasing like substantially. And excuse me. Yeah, sorry about that. My area's been increasing substantially, and just looking like at new home buyers, coming in the area, looking at listings, and a lot of these properties are like into the seven figures, and I'm like, unless you work, like in tech or you're doing extremely well, like in real estate, and you have like joint incomes, like how would you really afford a place like that? And then I look at homes in other states where you could find a 3,000 square foot, like family home for like three, 400,000. I look at them like that's insane. Like the price difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Where are you in California?
I'm in Southern California by like Pasadena area.
Really? Okay, cool. So I spent a lot of time when I went to college in Arizona, and I spent a lot of time in Pacific Beach in San Diego.
One more time.
I went to college in Arizona, so we would drive over to San Diego a lot. So I
Oh,
spent a lot of
nice.
time in Pacific Beach. We had a camper van. We still have it. It's like a built out camper van, and we would drive over and surf in San Diego.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I had a buddy who he went to school down in Point Loma.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a great surf area.
So it's awesome down there. I love San Diego. That is, we almost moved there actually. We were very, very close to moving there, and the taxes and the housing prices were the biggest thing that we didn't like. Running two companies and being fully self-employed, it is impossible to not have that tax bill. Like I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, the taxes they definitely like don't really show any mercy, they just hit you hard. I see that a lot with a lot of I'm actually not really looking forward to taxes this year, but it's gonna have to happen. Um but yeah. But I'm very curious too in terms of real estate, you're very social, you're a very smart individual. What are your methods for like networking? Or like do you network a lot on different platforms, or do you kind of like go out and about and like meet people?
So my biggest form of networking is in person, and that's just I can build a rapport with somebody in person much better and faster than I can online. But that being said, I am improving my rapport building skills online because I think there's a lot of potential there, especially with how many people moving here. But I go to a weekly networking group on Thursdays. So that is kind of one form of networking, and they pop up around St. Petersburg. So our town is so business friendly that there's networking groups multiple times a week. There's people that meet every few times a week, and it's you never really run out of network working here. Like you could decide one day that you want to network, and within the next 3 days, there's probably a meetup with 30 plus people.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it's a very social town. It's amazing here.
and that's in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, so we actually landed on here because it reminded us of San Diego.
Oh, and you guys have dolphins too. I saw that.
Yes, we have dolphins, we have manatees, we have great fishing, great diving. The water's warm, the water's blue. We live on basically a peninsula on a peninsula, so we're like on. It feels like an island, but we're connected to land. It's a great place, man. I'd never leave here. This is the best place in the world.
So it's kind of like landlocked in a way, but like is there like one way in, one way out, or
Two,
oh, two ways in?
2 ways in, 2 ways out.
Nice,
One way
nice.
home.
I've been looking at, like traveling this year. Last year was a, a tough grind with like, putting aside a lot of investments and whatnot to like get ahead. And then I figured this year, and I've seen this with a lot of other people on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, I want to live a little bit this year." So I was looking at potential places to go visit, and said, "You know what, Florida?" I'm like, I see your posts all the time about Florida. I'm like, I see dolphins, I see great food, I see very friendly people. So I said Florida might be a move,
You
for
should, yeah,
maybe in the
absolutely.
springtime or summer.
Springtime.
Springtime. Too humid in the summer.
No, I don't mind it, but I came from Arizona summer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you're kind of like you're accustomed to the heat.
Yeah, I'm damn near a Lucifer. Like I'm used to the heat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fisherman too, so I mean that's like perfect.
Heck yeah, man. We have boats here. We'll take you out.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we could set this up.
Yeah,
That's
I've been
awesome.
wanting to. I've been learning how to spearfish too.
I've never gone spearfishing, but I know a lot of guys like in San Diego do it. But my biggest fear is like sharks.
Ah,
Yeah, I feel like if you're not scared, which they can sense that, they usually leave you alone. But I've had sharks approach me curiously, like when I was in a kayak in San Diego, but they never did anything. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's a rare occurrence.
pretty much. Yeah, I mean we have a handful of sharks around here, but not many, and they don't want anything to do with you.
I guess so. Yeah, I see a lot of guys in Florida who go fishing for like tiger sharks and
Mhm.
what else do they go fishing for?
Everything,
Like
dude.
Goliath.
Florida man is still very wild.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, you guys have it great over there with the fishing. I remember I was fishing one time in Florida like years ago, and I didn't know you guys had like saltwater catfish. I didn't know that was a thing. So I was trying to catch the biggest thing I could. So I had like a tuna rod and a giant reel, and I caught a saltwater catfish. I put like a giant, like, number 8 hook through its back, and I kayaked about a mile up the canal, and I threw it underneath a bridge, and I hooked up to a Goliath, a grouper,
Yep.
and I'm in this kayak, and this thing's like pulling me around. It only lasted about 20 seconds, and then it snapped the leader. But everyone's like, like, why would you do that? Like, that's crazy. And I'm like, I wanted to catch a grouper. So, but yeah, it sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. The grouper capital of the world is about 3 miles north of me.
Wow, you guys got made.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty fun.
so going forward, you're in real estate, you're working your way into finance, and you're doing Amazon. We call it Amazon arbitrage,
FBA.
FBA, and you're wearing a lot of hats here, and that's honestly really cool to see. And despite the setbacks you've had, I honestly think those are just blessings in disguise because you can't do anything but like learn from them. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe take those in a negative light, but you've taken those in a positive light. You seem to be moving at quite the speed, despite being at a young age, and you're very knowledgeable. Where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years in this industry in general?
Hopefully, in 5 to 10 years, I have found something that really stuck and I can stop doing all of the things that don't work. Because that's ultimately the phase that I'm in right now. It's just trying everything, waiting for one big thing to stick. And I want to make sure that I try enough stuff. I think by then I will have, and I'll have something more of a passion project, whether that's an investment firm or maybe a hedge fund. Who knows? Hopefully, I have found it and I can narrow my focus a little bit because I know that the ultimate way to build something worth $100 million or more is narrow focus. You can't do it on three different things. You have to have one thing if you want to build it into a massive amount.
That's a great point. Yeah, I do see a lot of people constantly like stretching themselves thin, trying to do like 10 different things, but they're not focusing, 100%. They're focusing like 10% on each thing, which
Exactly.
I've 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 done in the past quite a few times.
Yeah.
Um, so it's easy to get it carried away with that. But you seem like you're, doing fairly well despite, managing three different things. And I think, especially like in our 20s, it's great that we try these things now so we see like what works and what doesn't. As Elon Musk says, before you like get settled down and you have more responsibilities and priorities where the risk isn't necessarily on you anymore. It could be on like, if you have a house and a mortgage or a family. Now it's like you're pulling them in the equation in a sense. So I feel like that's actually it's great that you're trying this out now. Um, if you could start over, I feel like this is a very corny question, but if you could start over, would you change anything or would you rather have just kept everything the same regarding like the mistakes and the trial and errors?
I'd keep it all the same. Wouldn't change a damn thing.
Great. Yep. Same here. I feel like that's the best thing we can do is learn from our mistakes, whether it's like a heavy trading loss or whatnot, or just doing something that doesn't work out, because it's just like it's a great story to tell, and it's a great reminder of where you came from and what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. And it put me where I am right now, and I would not risk ever not ending up where I am right now because in my mind, I'm in the best possible place that I can be.
That's awesome. A quick question too. I'm very curious about this. Since you work in real estate, how many hours a week would you say real estate takes up? I wouldn't say takes up, but that you utilize in real estate.
Sure. Real estate is one of those true tried and true industries that you get in, you get out what you put in. So if I have a few deals and I'm running out of time, I might spend 60, 70 hours on real estate. But if I'm not really working anything right now and I'm not looking for people or looking for deals or looking for clients, I'll spend 5 hours on it, maybe if that. I definitely don't put all of my focus on real estate. I probably spend most of my time. I don't even know. It's so divided. Half between, and even like there's a lot of waiting with e-commerce too. Half of the time there is like you spend maybe 50 hours or 80 hours in one week on e-commerce, like getting your product ready, getting your shipping set up and all that. And then you wait a month for it to get here because shipping takes so long. So like it's a hurry up and wait game for sure. And real estate's the same way. Like if you're in the middle of a deal, you're very busy, but then you're either waiting for closing or waiting for another deal or waiting on something.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. So it definitely fluctuates. I was reading a book about a month ago. Is talking about like it mentioned like the 80-hour week. Essentially, we all work. Well, the average person works 40 hours a week, and you clearly work almost twice that amount at certain points in time. But it was talking about how you could utilize the extra 40 hours in terms of like being productive. And of course, if you're working like around 80 hours already, you can kind of disregard that role because you need other things like sleep and fun activities and whatnot, and especially hanging out with friends and family. That's a really important one. Some people can become very business driven to where they forget about everyone outside. And I feel like I've done that in the past, and then you kind of like remember like, oh my God, like I've been so caught up in this, you have to like reach out to family and friends. You have to nourish those relationships.
I do that. I'm very guilty of that. I and how I've rectified it is I put time on my calendar, date night or spend time with family or whatever it is. I don't. None of my family lives here, so I don't really have to worry about that. But I do have a girlfriend that does get upset if I work, 70, 80 hours a week. She's pretty tolerant of 60 hours, which is kind of what I actually now. I'm more of an 80 hours a week. I probably work about 60 to 65 hours a week. And I just have to be very diligent to set aside time to spend time with her or whatever else is pressing. But I don't feel like it's work. Like I enjoy it. There's nothing I'd rather be doing. I have my time. I ride my bike twice a month. I go to the gym every morning. That's my time. And otherwise I work. And I eat a lot of food. I eat so much food. So I spend some time cooking too.
Same, same. I love my food, especially in Florida. I mean, there's just such a wide variety.
Yeah, and I'm just a seafood guy. I've been pescatarian for like 3 years, so it's crushed seafood down here.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm a big seafood guy. Have you? I'm sure you like sea urchin.
I love it all.
Yep,
I have not found a seafood that I don't love.
perfect. Nice. I've had jellyfish before. I wouldn't recommend it.
I wasn't planning on trying it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I would recommend it, but I'm not sure if you would like it.
I'm sure it tastes kind of similar to octopus. Just
Yeah, it's kind of crunchy. Not the
oh,
best.
really?
Yeah,
Weird.
it's interesting. But Caleb, I do appreciate your time on this podcast. You've given a lot of insight to not just myself, but a lot of people who are going to be listening to this. And do you have any other, points or anything you want to throw out there before I let you go?
Not much, man. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I just think everybody should do more. Just do more. My favorite saying is life's not short. You just gotta do more.
Just do more, be better type of thing.
Pretty much.
I like that. Well, Caleb, I do appreciate your time. Thank you once again. And as someone like you who wears a lot of hats and is able to manage your time, it's honestly very inspirational to myself. It makes me want to go out there and just do more. And there's honestly no excuses. You're working almost 80 hours at certain points in time. So clearly, you can make time for anything and anyone as well. You're able to juggle a lot. So that's very inspirational. Other than that, I appreciate your time again and, tune in and hopefully I'll have you back on the podcast in the future.
Heck yeah, man. I look forward to it. Hopefully I have you in here. Hopefully you have me on in a couple months when I have my series set.
Looking forward to it, sir.
Thanks, man. Have a good day. Anybody can follow me at Caleb Coons. It'll be linked below.
I'll throw that in the link below, sir. All
Have a
right.
good day.
Thanks, Caleb. You too.